Today I want to talk about some comfort movies. What are comfort movies? These are movies that you never seem to get tired of watching time and time again, maybe because they hold some sentimental value to you, or you watch them at that pivotal time in your childhood and it kind of reshaped your movie tastes growing up, or maybe you're just nostalgic for these movies and watching it feels like reuniting with that old friend and catching up on the good old days. I bring that up because today I have movies I wanted to recommend to you guys that fit that description for me. Welcome to my first video of 2026. If you're tuning in for the very first time, me naitwa Arnold. This is where I talk about movies and physical media. If that's something that you find interesting, I urge you to stick around. Without further ado, this is Movies Now Mosh. Let's get into it. The first movie I want to talk about is Hellboy. This movie came out in 2004. It was directed by Guillermo del Toro, who of course is one of my favorite filmmakers currently working today. I like most of his movies. On the top of my head, I think of movies like Blade 2, Pan's Labyrinth, and Frankenstein, which was actually one of my favorite movies from last year. Now, this was my introduction to Guillermo del Toro, and I was introduced to him at a fairly young age, and I immediately fell in love with this distinct visual style. I like the way he's able to bring out the charm and beauty in this kind of dark, at times gothic imagery, and I feel it succeeds well when adapting such a story as Hellboy. Guillermo del Toro worked hand in hand with the original creator of the graphic novel, Mike Mignola. He was always on site during filming and they will constantly share ideas, and I feel that is why this movie is probably the best adaptation we'll ever get of Hellboy. The creature design, the makeup, and the prosthetics all look amazing, even 20 years later. This movie manages to perfectly bring the look of the graphic novel into the big screen in ways that I feel is really exceptional if you think about it. Now, the story is kind of dark with mature themes, but I like how Guillermo del Toro is able to balance those dark themes with other aspects in the movie that makes it really enjoyable. This movie is able to bounce effortlessly through various genres. It's part horror movie, it's part a superhero adventure, it's part love story. I think it's a really good coming of age story. This creature from hell that is raised amongst humans, and he has that human experience, like he has a father and he has friends and even falls in love, and all of this plays into his psyche because it is prophesied that he's essentially sent to earth to be the bringer of the apocalypse, and the conflict of the character comes when he has to make a decision. Does he want to end humanity or save it? And I feel like Guillermo del Toro had a really personal connection to the story because this is the only movie he ever made a sequel to. Partly I think it's because he likes telling these stories about outsiders, the outcast in society, people who are different and they're trying to blend in a society that most of the time shuns them away. Like Hellboy in this case, he protects people against things that go bump in the night. He becomes this kind of urban myth. Some people don't think he exists, some people are afraid of him, some people think he's a freak. He has to find himself and his purpose as a hero to a world that basically shuns him away. It has that moral lesson of what actually it means to be human. What is your humanity? Is it your biology? Is it something instinctively inside you? And I feel that's why the movie has managed to captivate me even years later when I come back to watch it. I'm so glad I have it in my collection, and I probably will be watching it for many years to come. Now, the next movie I want to talk about is Pirates of the Caribbean. This one is The Curse of the Black Pearl, the first movie in the Pirates franchise, which right now as we're speaking include 5 movies. This movie came out in 2003. It was directed by Gore Verbinski. Now, Gore Verbinski is one of those directors that I feel there's a lot to appreciate in his movies, especially this one. Some of my favorite movies from his catalog include Rango and The Lone Ranger, which I think is actually kind of underrated in my opinion. The release of this movie is one of those Cinderella stories. You know, those movies that when initially they were being made, people did not think would end up being as successful as they ended up being, because this movie is based on a Disney ride and it's about pirates. Before this movie came out, pirate movies were viewed as childish and people not taking pirate movies as seriously, so people thought this movie will not be as successful, but it ended up proving everyone wrong and being one of the highest grossing film franchises of all time. But also in the early 2000s, it was a time when studios were willing to gamble on new concepts. because the Lord of the Rings came out and it became this huge movie, reigniting people's interest in fantasy once again. They wanted to do the same thing with this movie and reignite people's love for pirate and adventure swashbuckling action movies. And I think this movie kind of does that. It's a throwback to those swashbuckle adventures of the past, like Robin Hood, Zorro, and the Three Musketeers. It has that vibe going for it, and Gore Verbinski is able to handle that tone very well. He has this way of creating these massive action set pieces, and by the way, this movie is filled with a lot of really awesome action set pieces, but within those, he manages to infuse a lot of great comedic elements, which I find really entertaining to watch. And most of the comedy comes from like the physical performance, especially with Jack Sparrow, who's kind of like channeling that kind of physical comedy of the guys from the past, like a Charlie Chaplin or a Buster Keaton type. Now, Johnny Depp has played a lot of amazing eccentric roles. His character was such a huge revelation at the time. That's why I think it's really enjoyable to watch. We have action, we have fantasy, we have a little bit of romance, we have zombie pirates and ancient curses, and all of these things sound like a really fun time to me, and that's why I can't get enough of this movie. I really love the first 3 movies in the series because I feel like they tell one cohesive story. My favorite, of course, is the second one, Dead Man's Chest, but this one still has a lot of charm. It's a bit toned down compared to what the other movies will be in the series. If you're just looking for a really good action adventure movie with swords and pirates, this movie has you covered. It's a really fun movie to watch from time to time, and I can't get enough of it. Now, the next movie I want to talk about, this one now I'm taking you guys back, way back to the 1950s. Why? Because I like classic cinema, and I'm always going to jump in the opportunity to recommend some classic cinema to you guys. This one is none other than Some Like It Hot. Now, this movie was written and directed by the great Billy Wilder. There are those directors in classic Hollywood that I feel as a movie fan you should never overlook, and one of them is Billy Wilder. He's made some of the most incredible movies, especially in his run in the 40s and 50s. You see movies like The Apartment, Ace in the Hole, Sunset Boulevard, Double Indemnity, 7 Year Itch, just to name a few. This guy is amazing. In my opinion, he's one of the best writer-director Hollywood has ever seen. And this one is one of my favorite movies from him. Now, how do I describe this movie? This one is a comedy about 2 musicians who are desperately trying to find a gig to get out of some financial hardship during the Great Depression and Prohibition era America. Their life takes a drastic turn when, on their way to find a gig, they end up being witnesses to a murder that is committed by the Chicago mob. In order for them to escape, because now the mob is hot on their trail, they disguise themselves as women and join a girl band that is supposed to perform in Florida. So a lot of the comedy comes from the fact that it's a man pretending to be women in a girl band, and one of them ends up falling in love with one of the girls in the group, played by the famous Marilyn Monroe. If you've seen these movies where the main aspect of the comedy is that we are watching guys cosplaying as women, you think of movies like White Chicks, Tootsie, even Mrs. Doubtfire. This movie set the template for those type of comedy movies. One of the standout things I like about this movie is the dialogue. The dialogue is so funny, so crisp. I like how you'll see one gag in one scene and then it gets paid off in another scene. So it's constantly a rapid fire of humor, and this movie will have you laughing from start to finish. Marilyn Monroe is one of those figures in Hollywood that you can't talk about movies in the 1950s and not mention her. She was one of the biggest stars to ever come out of Hollywood at that time period. Billy Wilder really understood how to cast such a figure, and I feel like this is one of my favorite roles of hers. Now, the movie is shot in black and white, but that should not discourage you, because I feel like as the movie goes on, you'll be enthralled in like the comedy and the performances that you will not even care that the movie is presented in black and white. If you've never seen a comedy in the 50s and in the 60s, you can't go wrong with Some Like It Hot. None of the jokes feel dated in any way, shape or form. So I urge you guys to give it a chance. I'm really confident you like it. Anyway, those are the movies I wanted to talk about. If you made it to the end of the video, I thank you very much. Please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.